The Galactic Fleet claimed that Earth was finished, and they spread this lie across the stars. They told the galaxy that Earth's defenses were broken, that Earth's fleets were crushed, and that humans no longer had the strength to fight back. Their message traveled fast, reaching colonies, outposts, and neutral worlds, and everywhere people heard the same thing. Earth was gone, humanity was no longer a power, and the Galactic Fleet was victorious. The alien commanders smiled in their great halls. Their admirals raised glasses of victory and their soldiers cheered, but the truth was far from their words, for Earth had not fallen, not yet. On Earth's colonies, fear grew like fire in dry fields. Families whispered about surrender. Traitors hid in fear, and soldiers felt the sting of shame. Even allies of Earth began to pull away. No one wanted to be on the losing side. No one wanted to be crushed under the so-called winners. The Galactic Fleet even sent images. Broken ships drifting in black space, explosions lighting the void, bodies floating without life, and all of it looked real, too real to question. But not everything that looks real is the truth. Not every battle is the end, and not every silence is defeat. Somewhere, hidden far from alien eyes, Earth's warships still breathed. The admirals of the Galactic Fleet thought humans had made their last stand. They thought the fight was over. They believed Earth's final defenders had burned with their ships, but they were wrong. For the humans had prepared a plan long before the war began. They had studied the aliens, they had watched their moves, they had learned their arrogance, and they knew one thing. The Galactic Fleet always celebrated too early. They always declared victory before the final shot, and humans decided to use that weakness. They decided to vanish, to let the galaxy think they were gone, while in truth they waited, silent, watching, patient as hunters in the dark. The lie of victory spread through the star systems. Merchants whispered about the end of humanity. Pirates cheered because Earth's patrols would no longer hunt them. Alien lords laughed because the stubborn race of humans had finally been broken, but hidden in asteroid fields and silent orbits, and in cold shadows where no sensor could find them, Earth's strongest ships kept their lights dark, their weapons ready and their hearts steady. Crews whispered in low voices. Officers studied maps of the stars, and captains gave quiet orders. No one outside knew. No one suspected. But Earth was far from finished. Earth was only waiting. Among these hidden ships was the battleship Resolute, its armor scarred from earlier battles, its guns silent, its crew tired yet burning with anger. Captain Reeves stood on the bridge, staring at the empty void. He knew the galaxy thought they were dead. He knew the aliens were laughing at Earth, and he knew that every lie made the truth stronger. His officers watched him, their hands steady on controls, their voices calm but their eyes fierce. They wanted to fight. They wanted revenge. But Reeve held them back. He told them not yet. Not until the time was right, and his words carried weight. For patience was the sharpest blade. The Galactic Fleet sent new messages. Their leaders gave speeches. They told young alien cadets that humans were weak, that resistance was foolish, that the war was over. But in quiet corners of the galaxy, some people asked questions. If Earth was gone, why were the stars still restless if the war was finished? Why did rumors of missing ships spread? Why did whispers of ghost attacks trouble the space lanes? And though most dismissed it as nonsense, a few began to wonder, a few began to fear. Maybe Earth was not finished. Maybe the story was not so simple. In secret halls on Earth itself, leaders listened to the enemy's lie. They listened to the reports of colonies. They saw the fear, and yet they did not despair. They knew their fleet was alive. They knew their captains were waiting. And they knew that victory was not measured in one battle. But in the last battle, humanity was cornered. Humanity was wounded, but humanity was not broken. And humans had always fought hardest when they were pushed against the wall. The galaxy had forgotten this truth, but soon they would remember. Soon they would see, because the hunters had turned their eyes away, thinking the hunt was finished, but the prey was still breathing. The prey was sharpening claws in the dark, and so the galaxy moved on, cheering for the false victory, laughing at Earth's fall, while in hidden places engines rumbled in silence. Weapons glowed with stored power, and human hearts beat with rage and courage. The stars themselves seemed to wait, as if holding their breath, because the lie of the Galactic Fleet was strong, but the truth of Earth was stronger. The galaxy believed the false story. But truth always rises, truth always cuts. And in the dark silence of space, Earth's warships whispered their promise. They would rise again. They would strike again. And they would show the galaxy that humanity was not finished. Not yet, not ever. The message of victory was clear to all, but it was false. And behind the false message waited the shadow of Earth's vengeance, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for the perfect strike. And when that moment came, the galaxy would remember the day when the hunters laughed too soon, and the prey proved it false. The galaxy slept under the lie of victory. The alien rulers believed Earth was crushed. They boasted that humans were nothing but dust among the stars. But in the cold shadows of space, where light could not reach and sensors grew blind, Earth's hidden fleet still lived, still watched, still sharpened its claws. And from these shadows a new story was about to rise, a story the Galactic Fleet had never imagined. The battleship Resolute floated among broken asteroids, silent as stone, its black hull painted with scars of war, its engines cold to avoid detection. The crew spoke in whispers. They moved with care, and every light inside the ship was dimmed. Captain Reeve stood tall on the bridge, staring into the starless void beyond the rocks, his eyes hard, his voice steady, and his heart filled with fire. He knew the galaxy thought Earth was dead, but here in this secret hiding ground, humanity was still alive, and humanity was waiting. Around the Resolute, other ships drifted, destroyers with silent guns, frigates with empty signal channels, carriers with hidden fighter bays. Together they formed the last true heart of Earth's fleet. They were not many compared to the endless numbers of the Galactic Fleet, but they were clever, they were stubborn, and they were desperate. 3 things more dangerous than numbers. 3 things that made humans unlike any other race in the galaxy. They knew how to turn weakness into strength. They knew how to turn silence into a weapon. Captain Reeve walked across the bridge, his boots soft against the floor, his crew watching him with eyes that carried both fear and hope. "They think we are gone," he said softly, his words carrying in the quiet. "They believe the war is over, but wars are not over until the last ship burns, until the last fighter falls, and we are still here, we still breathe. And as long as we breathe, humanity fights." His officers nodded, their faces calm, but inside their hearts beat fast. They had lost friends, they had lost families, but they had not lost the will to strike back. And that was all that mattered now. In the asteroid fields, they built their silence into traps. They placed false signals on dead rocks. They planted heat echoes to confuse enemy sensors. They turned the broken stones into shields, hiding whole ships behind drifting shadows. Any alien scout that dared to come close vanished without trace, its wreck swallowed by the darkness, its signals never reaching home. The Galactic Fleet did not notice at first. They believed their scouts were lost to storms or pirates. They did not see the sharp eyes watching them from the black. Among the crew of the Resolute, whispers of revenge passed like fire. Young gunners dreamed of striking the alien warships that had destroyed their homes. Engineers worked tirelessly, patching wounds with scraps, turning broken parts into new weapons. Pilots trained in silence, flying in the dark void with no lights, learning how to kill without being seen. They were shadows now, and shadows were patient. Shadows could wait for years if needed. But when they struck, they would strike hard. They would strike like thunder. On alien worlds, celebrations still echoed. Banners of victory waved. Alien soldiers sang songs of triumph. But in the cracks of the galaxy, a few voices began to doubt. Rumors spread of ghost ships, of human warships that should not exist. Merchants spoke of convoys that never arrived, of cargo ships that vanished into silence, and slowly, fear began to grow. But the galactic admirals laughed at these stories. They called them fairy tales. They mocked the idea that weak humans could still resist, and their laughter would soon cost them dearly. One night, among the shadows of the asteroids, Captain Reeve gathered his officers. They stood around the glowing map table, stars and routes shining faintly. "We wait no longer," Reeve said, his voice steady but sharp. "The time has come to remind the galaxy that Earth is not finished. Our silence has hidden us long enough. Now we turn silence into a blade." His crew exchanged looks, their hearts pounding, for they knew what this meant. The hidden fleet would move, the shadows would awaken, and the first counterstrike would begin. The Resolute's engines stirred, a soft hum filling the dark ship. One by one, other warships came to life. Silent destroyers powered up. Frigates prepared their torpedoes. Fighter bays opened with the whisper of metal. No signals were sent. No messages shared, only silent readiness, only the breath of men and women who had been waiting too long, and above them, the stars stretched cold and endless, unaware that death was about to move among them. Captain Reeve looked out at the asteroid belt one last time. The broken rocks that had been their shelter, their shield, their prison. He raised his hand and whispered, "Now the hunters will know the prey was never weak." And with that order, Earth's hidden fleet turned its eyes to the stars, ready to strike, ready to bleed the enemy, ready to show the galaxy that humanity was not finished, not now, not ever. And as the ship slid out of the shadows, engines burning faintly against the black, the galaxy's great lie began to tremble, because the ghost fleet was real, and the silence of Earth was about to roar. The Galactic Fleet moved across the stars with pride, their banners of victory shining bright, their admirals smiling in their grand halls, their soldiers boasting in every port. They believed the humans were broken, they believed the war was finished, and they believed their lie had become truth. But in the dark corners of space, whispers began to grow. Whispers of shadows moving where no fleet should be. Whispers of convoys vanishing into nothing. Whispers of a ghost that would not die. And those whispers carried fear. The first shadow fell in the outer lanes. A cargo hauler filled with fuel and weapons was traveling under heavy escort. Alien captains laughed as they guarded it. No one dared strike the might of the Galactic Fleet. No one dared defy their rule. But then the stars flickered. A silent shape moved in the dark, and in an instant the hauler was gone, torn open by fire that came from nowhere. Its escort ships fired wildly into the void. But nothing answered, nothing could be seen. And when the wreck drifted cold, the shadows were already gone, leaving no trace but silence. At first, the admirals dismissed it. They said pirates were bold. They said navigation errors destroyed the convoy. They said nothing could challenge them. But then it happened again, and again small ships lost, fuel lines broken, escorts disappearing into the black, and the whispers grew louder. The galaxy began to wonder. The lie of Earth's death began to crack, for shadows were moving, and those shadows carried human eyes. Inside the battleship Resolute, Captain Reeve watched the map of the stars. Red markers blinked where alien convoys had vanished. Blue lines showed the safe paths humans now used to strike, and his officers stood around him, silent but proud. Their patience was paying off. Their plan was working. They were ghosts in the night, striking quick, vanishing quicker, and each strike weakened the enemy. Each strike reminded the galaxy that Earth was not finished. The crew of the hidden fleet grew sharper with every mission. Young pilots who once trembled now moved like hunters, slipping their fighters into the void with no light, no sound, their guns firing only once before disappearing into silence. Engineers learned to twist broken parts into traps, turning scraps of metal into deadly mines. Gunners learned to wait, holding fire until the perfect moment, then striking with precision that shattered enemy ships in seconds. They were learning the art of shadows, and the shadows were winning. On alien worlds, traders spoke in hushed voices. They told stories of warships with human designs, ships that should have been destroyed, ships that drifted like ghosts, striking from the dark and leaving only wreckage behind. Some refused to believe, calling it fear and nonsense, but others listened, and in their hearts, the first seeds of doubt grew. If Earth was gone, why did shadows still fight if the humans were broken? Why did the stars whisper their name? One galactic commander, proud and certain, laughed at the rumors. He gathered a fleet of 5 warships to hunt the ghosts. He swore to return with proof of Earth's final end. His fleet moved into the black, hunting the whispers, hunting the shadows. But the shadows were hunting him. Captain Reeve waited in the asteroid field, the fleet of humans hidden and ready. And when the alien ships entered the trap, the void lit with sudden fire. Torpedoes struck from every angle. Beams sliced through alien hulls, and within minutes the proud commander's fleet was reduced to drifting metal. His final transmission was a scream cut short by silence, and the galaxy learned that shadows had teeth. The Galactic Fleet grew uneasy. Their admirals held secret meetings. Their faces no longer smiling. Their voices no longer proud. They could not admit the truth. They could not tell the galaxy that Earth was alive, but in their hearts fear was growing, for they could not fight what they could not see. They could not kill what they could not find, and the shadows were everywhere. On the Resolute, the crew celebrated quietly. Their eyes tired but fierce, their spirits lifted. They had struck a fleet and lived. They had broken the myth of invincibility. Captain Reeve stood at the front, his voice calm, his words steady. "We are still few, we are still wounded, but tonight we proved that shadows can bleed giants. Tonight the galaxy begins to see, and soon they will know. Earth is not dead." His words carried through the ship, and every heart burned brighter. Every hand steadied, because they knew this was only the beginning. But victory carried danger, for the more they struck, the more attention they drew. Alien fleets began to move carefully. Their patrols grew thicker, their convoys more guarded, and in the dark halls of the Galactic Fleet, new plans were being written, plans to crush the shadows once and for all. Yet none of them truly understood. None of them could see that the humans were not fighting only for survival. They were fighting for vengeance, for pride, for the right to exist, and such a fight could not be broken by numbers alone. The galaxy still believed in the lie, but the cracks were spreading, the lie was breaking, and the truth was moving like fire through the dark. Humanity was alive, humanity was fighting, and humanity was turning the night itself into a weapon. The shadows carried their flag, the shadows carried their fury, and the shadows whispered their promise. Earth will rise, Earth will strike, and Earth will never bow. The galaxy still laughed at the thought of human survival. Alien admirals drank toasts to their victory. Soldiers sang songs of conquest, and civilians believed the stories their leaders told them. But the shadows of Earth kept moving, each strike sharper, each whisper louder, and soon the whispers became something greater. Soon they became thunder, because Earth's fleet was ready for its first true counterattack, the kind of strike that would shatter the lie forever. Captain Reeve stood at the command deck of the Resolute, his face hard in the dim glow of the star maps. Red lights marked the alien supply lines. Blue shadows marked the human ships waiting in silence. His officers gathered close, each one holding their breath, for this plan was not like the others. This was not a hit-and-vanish raid. This was not a stolen convoy. This was an assault on the enemy's heart, a strike at the very commanders who had declared humanity dead. They believed the lie, Reeve said, his voice low but sharp. Tonight we tear the mask from their faces. Tonight we strike the hand that holds the whip. The target was bold, too bold for many. It was not a convoy. It was not a patrol. It was a Galactic Fleet command ship, a massive vessel that carried generals, plans, and the arrogance of victory. It floated near a quiet system, its escorts relaxed, its crew convinced that no enemy lived. They did not know that in the shadows of that very system, Earth's warships were waiting. Engines dark, weapons armed, hearts burning with fury. The humans had chosen this ship for a reason. Destroy the head, and the body trembles. The attack began without warning. The stars flashed alive with sudden fire. Torpedoes streaked across the void. Beams of light cut through the dark. The alien escorts screamed as their shields flared and failed. Human fighters poured from hidden bays, small and fast, striking with deadly precision. The command ship's alarms wailed. Its crew rushed to stations, but chaos already owned them. They had never expected this. They had never imagined ghosts could strike with such force, and as their fear grew, the humans struck harder. The Resolute fired its main guns, beams cutting through armor like paper. Explosions tore across the alien vessel, each blast shaking the arrogance out of it. The command ship tried to answer. It launched fighters. It fired batteries into the black, but the humans were too fast, too hidden. Every alien volley struck only empty space. Every defense fell short, and the shadows kept tearing at its sides, piece by piece, wound by wound. The pride of the Galactic Fleet was being dismantled before their very eyes. Inside the alien flagship, generals shouted, their voices cracking with disbelief. They ordered counterattacks, they ordered reinforcements, but signals jammed, communications failed. Nothing reached beyond the battlefield, and the fear that humans had planted grew into panic. This was no accident, this was no pirate raid, this was war. Earth's war. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Reeve watched with cold focus, his crew moving like a single machine. Their hands steady, their voices calm, but their eyes burning with the fire of vengeance. Every strike they made was for the colonies lost. Every shot fired was for the families destroyed. Every alien scream was an echo of humanity's suffering, and now it was the enemy's turn to suffer. Now it was the enemy's turn to fear shadows in the night. One by one, the escorts fell silent, drifting as broken husks, their fires lighting the dark like false stars. The command ship fought on, its armor cracking, its shields shattered, its pride crumbling, and then the final blow came. The humans had loaded their last torpedoes with everything left. Every ounce of hate and hope, they launched them in a storm, and the void erupted in a blaze so bright it turned night into day. The command ship split open, its pieces scattering into silence, its lie burning with it. The galaxy felt the shock. Across systems, across colonies, the news spread. Whispers of the destroyed command ship. Whispers of the ghosts who had struck. No one could hide it now. No one could laugh it away, for the wreck was real. The silence of the admirals was real, and the truth was bleeding through the lie. Earth was not dead. Earth was fighting back. On alien worlds, panic stirred. Soldiers who once sang of victory now doubted. Civilians who once cheered now questioned. And even allies of the Galactic Fleet wondered if they had backed the wrong side. If the humans could strike a command ship, what else could they strike? What else could they destroy? The fear spread like a sickness, quiet but unstoppable, and the lie that once held the galaxy together began to break. Back on the Resolute, the crew sat in silence after the battle, their hands still trembling from the shock, their faces pale but proud. Captain Reeve looked at them, his voice calm but heavy with meaning. Tonight we showed the truth. Tonight we proved Earth is not finished. This is only the beginning. His words sank into every heart, binding them tighter, sharpening their will, for they all knew the enemy would not stay blind. The enemy would come harder, stronger, but they no longer feared, because they had seen victory, they had tasted it, and they would chase it again. The first counterattack had ended, but it was more than a strike. It was a message, carved into the stars with fire and blood, a message the galaxy could not ignore, a message the Galactic Fleet could not erase. Humanity was alive, humanity was fighting, and humanity had just begun. The galaxy trembled after the fall of the command ship. The wreckage drifted in space like a scar against the lie of victory, and for the first time since the war began, the Galactic Fleet did not laugh, their admirals did not toast, their soldiers did not sing. Instead they whispered, they argued, and they feared, because if one human strike could tear apart their pride, then what else were the shadows hiding? What else could Earth still unleash? In the dark, far from alien eyes, the hidden fleet grew stronger. It was no longer just survival, no longer just whispers, it was awakening. Every ship that had once been silent now lit its engines. Every crew that had once whispered now roared with purpose. The humans had proven they could bleed giants, and now they were ready to do more. Now they were ready to tear the myth of invincibility apart piece by piece. Captain Reeve stood at the heart of it all, aboard the Resolute, his eyes fixed on the glowing star maps that now showed more than ambushes. More than raids, they showed campaigns, movements across systems, traps laid with precision, allies waiting in secret. The humans had been the hunted, but now they were turning into hunters. Patient, clever, merciless when the moment came. They thought we were finished, Reeve said to his officers, his voice low but fierce. But tonight, we show them that Earth is not only alive, Earth is rising. The fleet moved like a shadow storm, striking convoys across multiple sectors, faking signals to pull patrols into traps, using dead ships as lures. One moment they were fire in the night, the next they were gone, leaving only silence and broken wrecks. Alien captains no longer trusted their own maps. Alien crews jumped at shadows. They fired weapons into empty voids, afraid that every flicker of light was a human ship waiting to strike. The fear spread faster than fire, and fear was the weapon humans wielded best. The smaller ships of Earth, once seen as weak, became deadly blades. Frigates slipped between escort lines. Destroyers darted in and out of sensor range. Fighters swarmed like hornets, striking and vanishing before the enemy could blink. They did not fight like the Galactic Fleet with heavy numbers and brute force. They fought like predators of the wild, fast, silent, and merciless, and every victory sharpened them more. Engineers worked day and night, repairing hulls with scraps, building new weapons from wreckage, turning captured alien tech into human fire. Pilots trained in silence, flying with no lights, no signals, learning to use instinct more than sensors. Gunners drilled with patience, waiting for perfect shots, not wasting a single blast. And the crews bonded, bound by loss, by rage, and by the knowledge that they were all that stood between Earth and extinction. Their unity became their strength, and the fleet became sharper than any blade. On alien worlds, whispers of ghost fleets turned into shouts. Merchants avoided galactic routes, fearing to vanish like so many before. Soldiers muttered that the humans were unkillable. Civilians began to doubt their leaders, and even allies of the Galactic Fleet began to hesitate. They had trusted in the lie of victory, but now the lie cracked and truth poured out with fire. Earth was not broken, Earth was fighting. And Earth was beginning to win, one by one. Alien races that had once mocked humanity began sending secret signals, small transmissions hidden in static, offers of supplies, of safe havens, of information. They did not dare move openly, not yet, but they knew the tide was shifting. They knew the humans were not just defending. They were changing the balance, and they wanted to be on the side of survival. Captain Reeve listened to these signals, weighing each carefully, trusting few but never ignoring the signs, for he knew the galaxy was beginning to turn. The Galactic Fleet, desperate to silence the fear, launched larger patrols, sent stronger escorts, filled the skies with warships. But the humans adapted. They laid false traps, made the enemy chase shadows while they struck elsewhere. They turned the enemy's size into weakness, forcing them to spread thin, forcing them to bleed from 1,000 small cuts. And for every human ship lost, 3 alien ships fell. The numbers no longer mattered. The fear mattered, and fear was winning. On the Resolute's bridge, the crew gathered after another victory, their faces tired but fierce, their eyes glowing with something new. Not just survival, not just vengeance, but hope. They were no longer hiding. No longer running, they were striking, they were awakening. "This is only the beginning," Captain Reeve told them, his voice steady. "The galaxy will soon see that Earth is not prey. We are the storm." His words echoed through the ship, through the fleet, and through the stars. And with every passing day, the storm grew stronger. The galaxy that once laughed at humans now whispered in fear of them. The fleet that once hid in shadows now lit the stars with fire, and the prey that once ran now chased, now hunted, now awoke. Earth was rising, Earth was roaring, and Earth would never bow, not to fleets, not to lies, not to the galaxy itself. The galaxy could not ignore the truth any longer. The false story of Earth's death was broken beyond repair. The whispers had turned into fire, and the fire had spread across worlds like a storm. Convoys were lost, patrols destroyed, command ships shattered. The humans were alive, and worse, they were winning. And in the halls of the Galactic Fleet, fear began to twist into anger, suspicion, and betrayal. Not all alien races had trusted the lie from the beginning. Many had joined the war only because they believed the humans were already finished. They had sent ships, supplies, and soldiers to share in the victory. But now they questioned. Now they whispered in secret. What if Earth was stronger than told? What if the humans were not prey but predators, and for the first time, the galaxy turned its eyes away from the alien conquerors and toward the shadows carrying Earth's flag? On hidden channels, encrypted signals traveled across the void, secret messages from those who no longer believed in the Galactic Fleet. Some were merchants tired of losing ships to ghost attacks. Some were leaders afraid their own worlds would be targeted next. Some were soldiers who had seen the shadows strike and lived to tell the tale. And these voices began to reach the humans. Small offers of help, warnings of ambushes, maps of supply lines. The first sparks of betrayal inside the mighty armada. On the Resolute, Captain Reeve stood in silence as one such message flickered on his screen. It came from a world deep in alien territory. Its leaders promised intelligence in exchange for protection. "They are afraid," Reeve said quietly. His officers gathered close, afraid of the truth, afraid of us. And fear is the sharpest weapon in any war. His crew nodded, but their faces were tense. They knew betrayal could cut both ways. Allies could be spies, offers could be traps. Yet they also knew that this was how wars shifted. This was how giants fell, not just from fire, but from cracks inside their own walls. Among the Galactic Fleet itself, a darker betrayal was growing. Hidden in their ranks was a spy, not an alien traitor or a cowardly captain, but one of their own officers. Someone who had watched the arrogance of the admirals, someone who had seen the corruption behind the war, someone who had decided that humanity's courage was worth more than the fleet's pride. This spy moved quietly, passing messages through coded fragments, slipping vital secrets into the black and slowly, carefully, shaping the war toward Earth's hands. The first great gift the spy gave was a warning, a map of a trap the Galactic Fleet had built. They had gathered dozens of ships in a nebula, waiting for the humans to strike. But the spy sent the truth ahead of them, and instead of falling into the snare, the humans turned it into their own. The Resolute and her allies struck first, turning the ambush into chaos, leaving wrecks adrift in the glowing gases, and the spy's message was proven true. Earth had a hidden hand inside the enemy's heart, but betrayal spreads like fire. Once it begins, it cannot be contained. In alien courts, leaders argued with each other. Some demanded stronger attacks on Earth. Others whispered of peace. Some feared they had chosen the wrong side. Others secretly prepared ships to flee. The unity of the Galactic Fleet cracked. The trust between allies broke, and Earth had not even fired a shot to cause it. Their very survival was enough to divide the enemy. On alien streets, civilians began to riot. They asked why their sons and daughters were dying in a war built on lies. They asked why humans, who were said to be extinct, were destroying fleets that were supposed to be invincible. Their leaders answered with silence or with force. But silence did not heal, and force only fueled the rage. And in every act of doubt, in every spark of rebellion, Earth's shadow grew larger. Earth's legend grew stronger. On the Resolute's bridge, the crew whispered about these changes, about the cracks forming in the enemy. "We are not just fighting ships anymore," one officer said. "We are fighting fear itself, and fear is winning." Captain Reeve listened, his face hard, his voice calm. "Fear is our ally, but betrayal is our weapon. When the galaxy begins to doubt, the fleet begins to fall, and when the fleet falls, Earth rises." The spy did not stop with maps and warnings. The spy carried something greater, something deadly, hidden deep within enemy vaults. A weapon stolen from the fleet itself, alien technology meant to shatter worlds. Now carried in secret toward the humans, no one on the Resolute yet knew the full power of what was coming. But they knew it was a gift of war, a gift that could change everything, if they dared to use it. The Galactic Fleet, sensing betrayal, turned on itself. Purges began. Officers executed for suspicion alone. Allies accused of treachery. Entire worlds punished for rumors of rebellion. The very unity that had made them strong was now crumbling under fear, and Earth's hidden hand had only begun its work. The shadows of betrayal spread faster than fire, and soon the galaxy itself was divided not by humans, but by the cracks in their own trust. The humans did not need to shout. They did not need to spread lies. They only needed to survive, to strike, to whisper through shadows, and the galaxy did the rest, turning on itself, cutting its own strength. All while the fleet of Earth waited, patient, hungry, ready for the final strike. And in the silence between battles, one truth grew louder than all others. The greatest weapon in war is not always fire, it is betrayal. And the Galactic Fleet was learning that truth too late. The galaxy was burning with doubt. The lie of Earth's defeat was shattered, and the cracks of betrayal spread like poison through the Galactic Fleet. But even as alien rulers argued and their admirals purged their own ranks, the humans were already shaping the battlefield for something greater, something final, a strike that would not just wound the fleet, but break its back forever. Captain Reeve and the hidden fleet were done with shadows. They were ready to set the trap. In the silence of deep space, a nebula swirled like a storm. Clouds of glowing gas twisting in colors of blue and red. Sensors failed inside it, signals broke apart. Ships could vanish within its fog and never be seen. It was a graveyard waiting to happen, and Captain Reeve chose it as the stage for the last dance. He stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his eyes fixed on the nebula's swirling light, and his voice calm but heavy. "Here we end it. Here the hunters will choke on their own arrogance." The humans knew the Galactic Fleet would not sit idle. The destruction of their command ship, the betrayal of their officers, the fear spreading through their ranks, it had enraged them. They wanted a show of power. They wanted revenge, and they would gather their fleets to crush the humans once and for all. Reeve's plan was to let them come, to lure them into the nebula where their numbers would mean nothing, where every sensor was blind, where every ship was isolated, and where shadows could kill giants. Preparations began at once. Engineers filled the nebula with hidden mines. Fragments of broken ships turned into deadly traps. Gunners calibrated weapons to fire by instinct rather than signal. Pilots trained to fly blind using only memory and sharp senses. Every ship of the hidden fleet was tuned for silence and sudden fire. They were building a storm within the storm, and when the enemy entered, there would be no escape. The spy within the Galactic Fleet played their part too, sending false information, feeding the admirals reports that humans were gathering in the nebula, that Earth's last defenders were cornered. The bait was perfect. The arrogance of the fleet did the rest. They assembled hundreds of ships, battleships, carriers, destroyers, all marching toward the glowing cloud, their commanders certain they would finish humanity in one strike, never knowing they were walking into the jaws of the trap. The day came when the stars filled with alien fire. The Galactic Fleet surged into the nebula like a tidal wave. Their engines burned bright, their signals blared, and their captains boasted of easy victory. But the moment they crossed into the storm, the light began to fade, the signals broke, and the silence swallowed them. Confusion spread like fire. Ships lost track of each other. Orders fell apart, and into this chaos the humans struck. The first explosions came from nowhere. mines detonating against massive hulls, destroyers vanishing in sudden fire, frigates spinning into silence. The fleet tried to answer, but every shot struck only the mist, every volley lost in the fog, and the shadows moved among them, human ships striking and vanishing, fighters darting like ghosts, torpedoes slamming into battleships, beams cutting through armor. The nebula lit up with fire after fire, each one a nail in the coffin of the Galactic Fleet. On the Resolute's bridge, Captain Reeve stood calm, his crew moving like predators, their hands steady, their voices sharp. "Strike and vanish," Reeve commanded. "Hit them where they cannot see, make them fight shadows, not ships." And the humans obeyed, their fleet carving through the enemy like knives through flesh. Every alien scream a reminder that arrogance had brought them here, and now arrogance was killing them. The Galactic Fleet tried to regroup, tried to form lines, but the nebula betrayed them. Their own weapons turned against allies. Their own signals tangled. Their own fear choked them. The Admiral shouted orders into the void, but none reached the ships, and one by one their vessels became burning wrecks, drifting silent in the storm. The trap was closing tighter and tighter, until there was no way out. Hours passed, the nebula flickered with endless fire, and the once mighty fleet shrank into silence. Broken and scattered, some ships fled blindly, crashing into the clouds. Others begged for orders that never came. Some tried to surrender, but no signals could reach. The humans gave no mercy, for mercy had been burned away when Earth's colonies fell. When their people were slaughtered, this was vengeance, pure and unbroken, vengeance written in fire. When the last flagship cracked open under the barrage of human guns, the nebula went quiet, only drifting wreckage remained. The trap was complete. The greatest fleet the galaxy had ever seen was now nothing but dust and echoes. And Earth's hidden fleet, though scarred, though battered, still stood, engines burning steady, weapons cooling in silence, hearts fierce with triumph. On alien worlds, the shock was like an earthquake. The Galactic Fleet was supposed to be invincible. But now their might had been shattered in one battle. The galaxy could no longer deny the truth. Humanity had not only survived, they had destroyed giants. They had turned hunters into prey, and their legend was rising higher than fear itself. On the Resolute, Captain Reeve looked across his weary crew, his voice steady, his eyes fierce. Tonight the galaxy learns the truth. Tonight they see what it means to fight humanity. And tonight we proved one thing: Earth will never bow. His words filled the ship, filled the fleet, and echoed into the stars. For the final trap had been sprung, and the galaxy would never forget it. The nebula was silent now, the smoke of battle drifting in glowing clouds, the wreckage of the Galactic Fleet scattered like bones across the stars. And in that silence the lie finally died, the lie that Earth was finished, the lie that humanity was crushed, the lie that the galaxy had believed for so long. All of it burned away in fire, leaving only truth, and truth was far louder than any victory song. News spread faster than light, faster than fear. Ships that escaped the nebula carried the story. Their captains stammered in disbelief, their crews broken with terror. They told of ghost fleets, of human warships rising from the dark, of a trap that swallowed the greatest armada the galaxy had ever built. And for the first time, the words were not whispers. They were shouted across systems. They were painted on walls. They were cried in marketplaces. Earth lives, Earth fights, Earth wins. On alien worlds, shock turned into chaos. Soldiers who had once marched proudly under the banner of the Galactic Fleet now stood frozen. Staring at the reports, civilians who had believed the lie of victory now rioted in anger, demanding to know why they had been deceived, demanding to know why their families had been sent to die against a race that refused to fall. The galaxy's faith in its conquerors cracked and then broke because the lie was gone, and the truth burned too bright to deny. The admirals of the fleet, once arrogant, now cowered in hidden chambers, their pride shattered, their voices filled with rage and fear. Some demanded endless reinforcements, others demanded retreat, some called for peace, others screamed for blood, but none of them held the power anymore. None of them held the unity they once commanded, because their fleet was gone, their lie was gone, and their rule was bleeding out in silence. In the shadows of Earth's hidden command centers, leaders listened to the chaos unfold, their eyes steady, their voices calm. They had been patient for so long, forced to watch their people die, forced to carry the weight of silence. But now the silence was broken, and in its place came a roar, the roar of survival, the roar of vengeance, The roar of a legend that would never be forgotten. Humanity had not only endured, it had risen, and the galaxy itself was witness. On the battleship Resolute, the crew sat in weary triumph, their bodies aching, their eyes hollow but their hearts alive. Alive in a way they had not felt since the war began. Captain Reeves stood among them, his uniform torn, his face lined with exhaustion, but his voice carried strength. They said we were finished, he told them. They told the galaxy we were dead, but tonight the galaxy has seen the truth. We are not broken, we are not weak, we are not prey, we are humanity, and we will never bow. His words echoed through the ship, through the fleet, through every scarred survivor, and it was no longer just hope. It was a promise. The galaxy itself began to shift. Worlds that had once mocked Earth now sent secret offers of alliance. Races that had bowed to the fleet now lifted their heads. Merchants who had once feared to trade with humans now begged for roots. The balance of power was changing, and at the heart of it was not numbers, not technology, but the courage of a race that refused to die. The courage of humans who had turned shadows into weapons and lies into ashes. In every corner of the stars, stories grew. Children spoke of human warships like dragons of legend. Soldiers whispered of human captains who fought with fire in their veins. Rulers trembled at the thought of Earth's vengeance. And even among the ruins of the fleet, some alien survivors admitted the truth. Humanity was not to be erased. Humanity was to be feared, respected, and remembered. The Galactic Fleet tried one last time to control the story. They broadcast messages of strength. They claimed the battle was only a setback. They promised a new wave of ships, but their voices were hollow. Their fleets were scattered, and their power was crumbling. For every lie they told, the truth grew stronger. The truth that the humans had survived their worst night and turned it into the galaxy's darkest dawn. The name of Earth spread like thunder. No longer a planet to pity, no longer a race to dismiss, but a symbol, a warning, a legend. If humanity could not be broken when the galaxy itself turned against them, then they would never be broken at all. And in that truth lay the seeds of a new order, one where humans stood tall, scarred but unbowed, and where every star knew their story. On the Resolute's bridge, Captain Reeves stood in silence, staring at the wreckage that floated beyond the glass. The fires of broken ships flickering like dying suns. His crew waited behind him, silent, tired but proud. He placed his hand against the glass, his voice low but fierce. They tried to erase us, but they only made us stronger. They tried to bury us, but they forgot we are roots that crack stone. They tried to write our ending, but tonight we wrote our legend. And his words became the final truth, carried across the stars. The Galactic Fleet had claimed victory, but Earth had proved it false, and in that false victory, humanity found something greater than survival. They found unity. They found vengeance, they found legend, and the galaxy would never laugh at them again. Not now, not ever.